So on today's video, we've got some Corbeau. Some seats were here. Where'd they go? There they are. Ordered 2 seats. These are the Corbeau Evolution X seats and the matching C6 brackets with the optional double locking sliders. They do sell them in a single locking slider, which will put a lock on one leg of the seat bracket, but I went for the optional second seat slider, which puts it on both sides. It's another $20 per seat bracket, and probably worth every penny. If you're going to do any hard driving, Corbeau suggests them, and they're cheap enough that I think that your seat not twisting in its frame is probably worth that extra 40 bucks. So let's get these out of here and see what we got. So first thing I took out was the driver and passenger side seat brackets. Everything was really well packaged and separated from each other so they're not bouncing around in shipment. The finish on both of these is really nice. It's like a satin finish on all the bracketry. The welds are good enough quality, I would say. This is the double locking slider I was talking about. There's a lock on each side, so there's a big bracket right here. If you get the single locking slider, it'll be, just half of it, so it'll be a little lever you pull up on, and it locks on one track. Which side it is, I'm not really sure. You'd have to look, but labeled clearly. Driver's side, the passenger side. Got double locking also for the passenger side. So on closer inspection on the seat brackets, bottom side quality looks to be the same as the top. Everything is definitely usable, especially for something that won't be seen. The paint finish is not perfect, but for $100, I think it was like $114 for these double locking sliders. Not terrible quality. At least they're labeled, came with instructions, and they seem to be sturdy enough that if you were to get into any sort of accident, I won't worry about them buckling and sending you through the windshield or anything like that. So these are supposed to bolt up in the existing bolt hole locations with the factory hardware. There is some installation instructions. There's no photographs, but that's okay. This should be pretty straightforward. And if you do want video instructions, you can go to www.corbeau.com/install. So we'll get the seats out and see what they look like. So I've got the seats out, and they seem to be pretty good quality for the money. They're definitely a lot sportier. They remind me of the competition seats a little bit, without obviously the real carbon fiber on the back in the new C7. So this is probably a good compromise for somebody that wants to buy a lightweight sport seat. Of course, this one is an Evolution X, so it does have a fixed back, which take it or leave it, but it is a good seating position by most standards. It's pretty light. We'll get this up on a scale here, and we'll see what it weighs, and we'll see what the bracket weighs, and we'll see what we're going to save over the factory ones. Now this is just balancing on the head of the seat, so take it what you will. 34.2. So what you see is basically what came in the 2 boxes that were in the beginning of the video. You do get the 2 double locking sliders if you order them with that option, or if you get the seat brackets at all for your car, and you get the 2 seats. You do get 4 mounting bolts. Now, they are actually in the bottoms of the seats. You will find 4 Allen head piece of mounting hardware with a washer. So that's where that is. Same on the other seat bottom. And that's really all you should need to install them. It'll reuse the factory hardware, and it should bolt right in. I think they're pretty solid buy for the money. Everything's pulled real nice and tight on the bottom of the seats. This faux carbon fiber is kind of a neat touch. I didn't realize that it would look this good in person. I thought it was going to look a lot more cornball. And you'll notice that they are light enough where I can move them around with my left hand, which is my strong hand.
Woo, that's heavy. I better use my strong hand.
And with really no trouble. I would expect that the power driver and passenger seats are going to be nowhere near as easy to manipulate. Even with the bracket on it, I wouldn't think that you'd have any problem moving them around yourself, in and out of the car anyways. So like I kind of said, when I do buy a C7, I'm going to buy it with competition seats, whether it's a Z06 or a Z51 car like this one. And these are going to be an affordable alternative for it in the meantime. These retail for $3.99 each, and I think that's actually a pretty good buy for it. The material feels good. I believe this is vinyl, but it does feel somewhat like leather, but it's probably more durable. It needs less upkeep than leather. There's more of these carbon fiber type inserts on each side. They do have an Evolution model that does have a reclining lever on each one. So if that's something you can't live without, they do make that. And I believe they fit all C5 and C6 Corvettes as well. I ordered these seats with the black stitching option. So you can order it with a red stitching. That would look good too, but I felt like this might be maybe more timeless or universally appealing. Some people don't like a little splash of color. So the first step of the process, according to the instructions, is to... oh no. What a loser. Let's see. First step is to remove the old seats. So that will be my first step. Set the camera up here and we will jump to time lapse. So there you have it. You have the factory leather seat with the bracket. It was a power electric seat. Well, it was a power seat with the heated option, so there's heating pads on the bottom and top. Noticeable difference in size. This one is heavier for sure. How much heavier though? Only the scale can tell. So we have removed the stock seats and sliders. I did not show you the passenger side. It's the same as the driver's side. It's going to become repetitive if we do it that way. We'll remove the bolts from the bottom of our seats, slide the tracks all the way forward, and we'll line up the two front bolt holes. That's what we'll do. We'll not tighten them completely. I'm assuming we'll end up, before we tighten them completely, you're going to want to install the rear bolts as well so everything's squared up. By the time all four bolts are in snugged up, that's when we're going to snug them down the rest of the way. So, I stopped the video because I ran into a problem. Now, you're supposed to install the washers, as seen here. I'm sure you want them to distribute any load that's placed on the head of that bolt, so it doesn't rip through the bracket. And I will use them all, but I'll illustrate a problem. Right now, you can probably see that that hole's lined up. This hole will be lined up too. I'll put bolts in there. I'm just leaving it open for instruction here. When you go to install the front bolts, as it says, do them first. It is nice that there's some adjustability. There's a few positions you can put them in. They send you these large black washers. Now, the ones that I have installed instead are smaller. I wouldn't really want to install these without any washers below them, but it's like the inside of the seat bracket was hitting the washers. It would work without them, and that's exactly what another YouTuber found. Someone doing a similar review. So the trouble I ran into was that they tell you to install the front bolts with the washers loosely, which I did. Hit the lever, and you go forward. They were stopping right here. It was stopping right on top of the bolts because the inside of the brackets was hitting the washers. And even now, I think it contacts it just a little bit. So the trouble that causes is when you go to install the rear bolts, they are way down. They're way down in the abyss. There is no way you would ever be able to get a bolt in there, ever. You have to take the sliders apart. You'd have to do some serious screwing around. But what they should look like, here we are with the slider all the way forward now, is really accessible, just like that. So that does it for the bracket. So this is the passenger side bracket for example, there's a little slot there, and then there's a stud. That's for the seat belt buckle on the passenger side. So I have the driver's side seat out, and you'll see it's upside down. Okay, here's so you're oriented. We have the seat belt buckle, which we need. On top, there's a large nut, and on the back, you will see the slotted piece. It's right there. There's the slotted piece, and there's where the stud is. Now, this is a very large nut. The socket that I used is a 13/16 socket, and that seemed to take care of it. Apparently there's blue Loctite on that, and it is snug, to say the least. But when you look at yours from the factory, you'll see some witness marks on it from that nut actually spinning. So it was tightened and assembled with that. I already broke mine loose. It's backed almost all the way out. I just wanted to give you a visual representation of it before I actually take it all the way out and move it under the other seat, because there's another thing that tripped me up that was not in the instructions, and I didn't find much as far as instruction goes online, I guess you could say. So I'll peel that the rest of the way off and transfer it over to the new seat. So I did get the seat latch installed. It was fairly cringy having to tighten this nut, because if you do go and do this yourself on your car, you'll find pretty quickly that this does not spin very freely, so you have no sense of it being straight or cross-threaded while you're doing it. I thought I cross-threaded it at first, which would have been really bad, but I didn't. This was a little bit wiggly, just like it was on the other seat, but other than that, I did check behind it. There was a washer on the backside, or a washer of sorts, and it's bottomed out. I do have 2 electrical connectors. This yellow one will be reused, and it should show that the seat belt is latched. I'll fasten these somewhere out of the way, or maybe they'll just end up being loose under the seat, but at any rate, we're about ready to go put it in the car. But what I did find is untold treasures. I'm probably 1 to 2 hours closer to retirement with all the change and sunflower seeds in there. And a quick vacuum, just clean it up. Next step, I'm going to put the driver's seat in, make sure all 4 mounting points are installed before I start tightening the nuts down, and I will install the seatbelt harness sensor here. That's the one remaining yellow plug, so we'll get that in there and off we go. So I've ran into one more problem installing the seat. When you put the factory seatbelt back on, it's just a nut on a stud to hold it. But what I did is I did install a couple of thick washers, because when you install the belt on this stud, if you slide the seat all the way back, you can probably see it. Yeah, it dug into it a little bit. You can see a couple little tags hanging off towards the bottom of what was the what would be the fake carbon, right? It hits the plastic on this about right here really hard. It can't slide all the way back with this bolted all the way down, and it's got to be tight. So I'm standing it off probably almost a quarter of an inch, maybe just under a quarter, 3/8 of an inch, we'll say. And I think that's going to be enough. So I'll throw it back in, and I'll see that I have full range of motion on the slider front to back. So the driver's side is installed. I'm going to highlight a little bit of how well it fits. The seat fits really, really well with the door shut. You can see how close it is. There's probably 3/4 of an inch to 1 inch of clearance from the shoulder bolster to the door frame. Same down here, down with the elbow rest and your, I guess where your massive lats are supported. There's another 3/4 of an inch, we'll say. The front plastic trim pieces, the mounting brackets, are completely different, so you won't reuse those. But sitting in it is very comfortable. There's noticeably more headroom. I do sit lower in the car. I've probably got 3 inches of room above my head. Seating position feels about the same. It can move forward and backwards about, oh, let's see what it feels like. All the way forward, my knees are buckled up on here. All the way back, I can't actually comfortably drive the car. So somewhere in the middle, see how this feels. Excuse the flip-flops. Let's see, one more back. So I would say I'm slightly favored towards the rear of the car. I'm 6 feet tall. I weigh 120 pounds. And I would say this fits me pretty well. So here we are on the passenger side, and as if I needed more reason to justify removing the seat and installing the new Corbeau Evolution X seat, this one is clearly destroyed. So I'll peel this one out in just a flash. And here we are with the seat cleared out. Seat's gone, vacuumed it out, and here we are with the new seat. And bam! Second seat's installed. The second one took probably like a quarter of the time that the first one did. Like many things, it's trial and error when you're first figuring it out, because like most things, there's not the best instructions that you receive with the seats. So this one probably took 30 minutes total from start to finish, pulling the old one out, moving everything over to the new one, installing the new one, getting it kind of adjusted, and calling it done. So I'd really have to say it took about 25 minutes. And just like the other side, go ahead and shut the door here. Does not hit that at all. Again, same distance. This one's 3/4 of an inch to an inch. Down lower, just about the same. Down in the seat belt bolting area, it's 3 washers down there. It still rubs a little bit, so everything seems to be the same on both sides. That side went on correctly too. The second time wasn't so scary, putting the seatbelt latch on, or the seatbelt buckle. It was still minor guesswork, but if you put it on as good as you can by hand, you've got a fighting chance of putting it on straight, and that's really about all you can do. Seat moves forward nice and easy, moves backwards nice and easy also. Other than that, that's going to about wrap up the install portion of this video, and I will take the car out for a little bit of a test drive. I don't think that they will feel appreciably better than the stock C6 seats. The shoulder bolster is going to be beneficial for sure. The side bolster is comparable, I would say, to the C6 seats. And the bucket itself seems to be comparable also. So the major benefit is going to be the weight savings, the looks. It's going to be able to utilize a 5-point harness down the future when I do put a hard bar in, and we do go to harnesses when we start doing some track driving, as well as just more than anything, looking better. I really think that these seats look the part. They fit the cockpit very well of this particular car, and I'm really excited to see how they feel. So let's go for a drive and see what we think of them on the road. So it is the next day, and I'm going to take the car for a little ride. Ooh, it sounds nice. So hopefully that gives you a good idea of what it's like to install the Corbeau Evolution X seats into your C5 or C6 Corvette. I'd imagine it's the same on older models, and it was fairly straightforward, and after driving it a little bit, it really changed the way that the car feels. It makes it feel more special when you drive it, as opposed to driving with the factory seats. Not that C6 seats are the worst thing in the planet, but like I said, it does make it feel more special each time you drive it. These seats complement the MGW shifter really, really well, so it's just a pleasure to drive it. So in my opinion, it was money well spent, and if I had to do it again, I would. I couldn't be happy with the product that I received from Corbeau. The customer service was top-notch. Final verdict on the seat installation. It is a pretty easy install. I would say that it's definitely a DIY type of installation. It's not exactly straightforward like you think it might be. You do have to do a little bit of modification of the parts that you get in the kit, and if you're able to do that or comfortable doing it, I would definitely recommend taking on the project. The seats are extremely comfortable. I could see going on maybe a 1 or 2 hour drive pretty easily in it. 3 or 4, haven't done it yet. I've done it in the factory seats behind me, and those are pretty comfortable. They're really for road tripping if that's what you're trying to do. Other than that, I think I covered everything pretty well in the video. If you do have any questions or concerns, anything, if you want links, make sure you comment down below. And if it's your first time to the channel, make sure you subscribe. If you're already subscribed to the channel, thanks for watching today's video and have a great day.
Hold me close till I get up. Time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't wanna